Hi, this is Pastor Michael Foster of the historical First African Baptist Church here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We're better known as the Fab Church. I'm praying that you enjoy this sermon that you're about to hear. I pray that it'll be life-forming and life-changing, and that it will meet you just where you are. My prayer is that the Lord will just touch you, and prayerfully this sermon will help lift your spirits and get you to the next level where the Lord will have you. God bless you and enjoy. For those of you who have your Bibles, devices, good eyesight, they can read it off the screen. Let us stand real quickly. I want to lift up this thought. I want to lift up this thought that's found in the 90th number of Psalms. The 90th Psalms. I just want to lift up one verse, verse number 12. Lift up one verse, Psalms number 90. We know that every single psalm is not written by David, because we are a church that read our Bibles and we study our Bibles. And I want to remind us again that when you go to Sunday school, you go to Bible study, you go to church, and you read your Bibles, it'll make you a better Christian. You didn't talk back to me then. I didn't hear but 4 amens. When we go to church, go to Sunday school and Bible study, and read our Bibles, it'll make us a better Christian. And I don't know about you, but I want to be better, because the closer we get to God, the better the Lord will use you. And we just not going to go to heaven anyhow, but I want to remind us of that. Let's look at the 90th number of Psalms, and we'll go down to verse 12. You'll find these old and familiar words. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Let me say this. This is only one scripture. Let me say it one more time. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. That's enough. You may be seated. I want to talk from the subject of a succession plan. A succession plan. Beloved, as young as we are, I hate to remind all of us that are in the church that one day we've got to leave here. Let me say that one more time. I don't care how young we are. One day, the Lord is going to call our name, and we're going to have to answer. So my prayer today is, when the Lord calls our name, when he looks at our book of our lives, what will the Lord say that we've done for him to continue the church? As we celebrate 155 years of service unto the Lord, 155th church anniversary, I would argue this point. I would argue that you cannot say you love the church if you don't plan for the church future. This is not Janet Jackson's "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" This is the Lord asking us that when your eyes are shut for the last time, and I know that COVID has taught us some things about death. COVID has opened our eyes up that now, I know during COVID, if you're like me or like others, even when you were fine, sometime through that stretch of 19 months, you've thought to yourself, what if I left here? What if something happened to me? What if COVID happened to me to the point where I have to leave here? When the Lord called my name, what would I be doing? And what can I say? I have contributed to the body of Christ, that the Lord will say back to me, I'm pleased with your service. Beloved, when we look at this plan, we know that Jesus Christ had a succession plan. That's why Jesus connected with these 12 apprentices, disciples, apostles. Jesus connected with them because he knew that his time on earth was few, because he knew the ministry and what he had to do. And yet he connects with these 12 apprentices, 12 apostles, 12 disciples, because he knew that once he left, his ministry didn't stop with his death, burial, and resurrection. He wanted the word of God to continue on, and he knew that these 12 disciples would do just that. First Advocate, can I tell you something today? It's more than just 12 of us, because those 12 changed the whole world. And sometimes it looks like we can't even change our city. But there has to be a succession plan, because no matter how we look at our own lives and reflect on the briefness of life, because no matter how old we are, we still want to live a long time. But our life isn't not like a book that after the pages, after we work through the day and go home at night, after the 12 o'clock p.m. timeline hits us, another page is turned. And it will look like today that many of us that are young, we don't even think about this type of thought, because when you're young, you think you're going to live forever. When I was young, I would drive 100 miles per hour just to see how fast the car goes. When I was young, I used to run, hop, skip, jump, do all those things because I was so young and naive. I didn't even see danger. I just thought nothing could happen to me. But can I tell you something? What the rest of us in the church want to tell some young person? You just keep on living. You'll soon discover that life is nothing to play with. When you get a little older, you'll start going to bed a little earlier and waking up early. When you get a little older, you'll start going to bed, and when you wake up in the morning, you'll put your legs on the side of the bed and take 3 tries one time, 3 tries, that's the second time, and on the third try, you'll pull up and get up on your feet. But quickly, not to move too fast, because everything has to get settled. Lord have mercy. When you're young, you can bite into an apple and pull a great big hunk of apple out and chew it with no problem. When you get a little older, you have to get your teeth out the glass side of the bed. Put them in and get you a knife and cut the apple and take your time in eating it. I tell you, life is nothing to play with. You wake up one day and everything is fine as wine, and wake up the next day and something is aching, something is hurting, and you start to tell young folks it's about to rain. Young folks start laughing at you because they say, now you this ghetto meteorologist, how do you know it's going to rain? And sure enough, because of your aches and pains, it starts to rain. But beloved, I say all that to you because we have to take the time to not just live a life, but we have to live life. In other words, I don't care how young you are or how old you are, you have to live life to the fullest. You have to take advantage of every bit of blessings the Lord gives you, but don't let your life be a life of taking. Be able to give back something sometimes. God didn't bring you here to just eat all the corn and devour all the things in the field without planting seeds and giving back. And then there's this little term that my old granddaddy used to say, if you can help somebody while you are down here on life journey, granddaddy would tell me, then your living won't be in vain. Have we forgotten about this part of life where we got to help somebody? Where an older, gray-headed man will help a young boy understand what manhood is all about? Have we forgotten about how it is that this older woman would help a young lady understand that every day of marriage won't be easy like Sunday morning? But are you the one that seems to want everybody to think that everything is fine as wine and that you don't have no problems and that you don't ever go through nothing? The devil is a lie. You've got to tell somebody that sometimes it's downright tough. It's hard coming up on the rough sides of the mountain. But if you keep your hands in God's unchanging hand, God will work everything out all right. So when it is we zoom into the circumference of this text, this psalm is entitled or titled, The Prayer of Moses, the Man of God. This psalm is written by many theologians, suggest by Moses himself. Moses is writing this psalm because Moses now, when this psalm is being written, he's in the wilderness. Moses is in the wilderness, and not only that, when Moses considers the frail nature of humanity and the righteousness and the judgment of God, it made him ask God for the wisdom to understand the brevity of life. See, young folks, I know you think you know it all right now, but it's until you get a little older you stop and start to think about where you're going when you leave this place. It's only when you get a little older you start trying to understand what life is all about. Sometimes when you get a little older, it'll help you understand, Lord, what is my purpose, as Moses is asking right now. And when you see life become so frail, you'll start understanding, look, I ain't got much more time to be here, so I ain't got time for mess, I ain't got time for garbage, I ain't got time for foolishness, I ain't got time for a lot of stuff, because God is looking at me, and Moses' life is not in the highlight. Moses' life now is going down. It's going down. This is not the young man you see at the Nile River floating up the river, down the river. This is not that Moses. This is not the young man that killed the Egyptian. This is not that Moses. This is the old man Moses who have lived a little bit, who have experienced some things. And now he's experiencing life. And now Moses is saying, look, life is precious, so Lord, teach me how to count my days. Teach me how to be able to appreciate you in this last part of life I'm living. And God started to explain to Moses here now. Moses, as he's asking God to do this, I see something. It forces Moses to look at this congregation. This congregation of people that are now out in the wilderness with Moses. Moses is looking at them and he's saying, I've got to get these people to the promised land. He understands this congregation. He concentrates his thoughts on the future. And you've got to understand something. People that cares about the Lord's business, they care about the future in which the Lord is taking them. They make plans for the future. They make plans for the future. Watch this. Even if the future don't entail them. When you love something or somebody, you want to take care of them even long after you're gone. Talk back to me if you can. I know now my wife and I, we put up stuff for our children, and sometimes by the way they act, I just wish I could take it on wherever I'm going. But we can't do that, can we? We can't take it back. We can't take it where we're going. But since we can't take it where we're going, we might as well give it to them. And our hopes and prayers is that when the Lord does call us home, they don't fuss and fight over it. I don't know why y'all won't talk back to me. Our prayers is that they would do just by what we have given. Appreciate what the Lord has blessed us to give them. We don't have much, but that which we have, we ought to be able to leave something for them. Don't you leave and die and leave here. Your family got to scrape up money to bury you. Because if you love your family, you'll be taking care of that right now. You could tell somebody that don't really love their family because you'll hear stuff like this. Well, they got money. My children got money. They can. You ought not to put that burden on your children. I wish I had somebody. So the very first thing this text is taking to teach us today, as we get ready to zoom into the circumference of the text, Moses here now looks at this future. And so when we examine this text and see what helpful hints the Holy Spirit has for us, The first thing this text is tailored to teach us is this: godly wisdom should not go in the grave with us. Teach us, watch what he says, teach us to count our days. This is what he said. Teach us to number the days we have left. Let me give you the Michael Anthony Foster translation. God, help us to know we won't be here forever. That's what it means. Lord, help us to realize no matter how young or how old we are, that this world is not our home. This is what he's saying. So teach us means that this wisdom must be learned. It's wisdom from God, but it must be learned. This is not something that's just given to us and we automatically know. Some people won't change their lives until they're on a hospital bed. Some people won't get any better, even in Christ, until they are sick and the Lord is counting their days and they're almost out of here. I've seen it before. Some people won't even say, I'm sorry, until the Lord strike them with some stuff. Don't you be the one that the Lord has to do something to you in order to make you be Christ-like. I wish y'all would hear me this morning. Make sure that the Lord don't have to stricken you with sickness, with illness, with disease or something to help you understand that this world is not your home and that you can't take anything with you. Godly wisdom should not go down in the grave with you. Therefore, Moses now understands that his days was numbered. It isn't automatically. God taught Moses his life is short and his days are numbered. Look, this is what the Lord told him. So therefore, he had the responsibility to pass on to the next generation the knowledge and the understanding of who God is and what God expected out of us. Let me say that again. You didn't get this. You have a responsibility to tell your children and your grandchildren and your children's children about God, because if you don't do that when you know who God is, who do you expect to do it? You don't come to church. You don't bring your children to church, and yet you expect for your children to act like they know God. And everything you learn about God, because mama made you go to church, you've learned all of that stuff, and then you die, and that knowledge and wisdom that you had, you take it to the grave with you. And you say you love the church, and yet the most precious thing that the church has is the word of God, and you won't even give it to your children. How can there be a succession plan when your child don't know when to stand and when to sit down? How can there be a succession plan when your child don't know the difference between God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit? Your answer to children nowadays is when the question is asked, their answer is Jesus. That's a good answer, isn't it? But we understand when we learn about the Bible, learn about how we should live and govern our lives, don't expect for anybody else to do that but you. See how quiet it's getting in here now? Because if First African is going to last, there has to be some type of mentoring of our children, mentoring of people. You cannot say you've been in ministry for 20 or 30 years and you ain't mentoring nobody. See how quiet it's gotten right there? Brother Ryan, you're the minister of music, and you are here 20, 30 years from now, and when they ask, who have you taught to play the keyboard? And you scratch your head. Pastor Foster, you've been pastoring over 20-something years, and you are now 50 years old, Pastor. Who have you influenced to know God? Pastor Foster starts scratching his head. Let me tell you why. I'm in a doctoral program right now. I'm learning so that I can give it away. Let me say, some of y'all didn't get that. You didn't get that. I'm learning about Jesus so that when some professor pour into me, I can pour it out into somebody else who can take what I just poured out into them, have the capacity to take it home or take it somewhere else and tell some other. I'm learning. I'm spending my hard-earned money to learn about God so that I can just give it away. And you've got to learn about Jesus so that there'll be a succession plan for the church. If they don't know Jesus, they can't be the next pastor. If they don't know Jesus, they can't be the next deacon. If they don't know Jesus, they can't be the next mother evangelist. They can't be the next missionary. They can't be the next usher. Somebody has to think about somebody other than themselves enough to say, you look like an usher. Come go with me. You look like a, come go with me. You look like a deacon. Come go with me. You look like a trustee. Come go. If you don't teach them, they won't know. How can they know? How can they know if we don't teach them? Moses is saying, you know what? The Lord is making me count my days. He says, I understand the value that wisdom gives and information that has been given to me, and I can't allow that to be buried with me. Moses says, as he looks at the people, these people are in the wilderness trying to get to the promised land. And the Lord told Moses, Moses, start to number your days. Moses just didn't start trying to plan his eulogy. Moses looked at the congregation of people, looked at the church and says, I won't be here forever. So the most valuable thing Moses could give them is his wisdom, his knowledge, last thing, his experience, so that the church, watch this, didn't die with him. Are y'all listening to me this morning? All of you have so much to pour into somebody else, and the sad commentary this morning would be if you take all that knowledge, all that wisdom, and all that experience, and you leave here not helping nobody. You want to know what that picture looked like? It looks like looking to my left at these little young children that are over here to my left. And I look to my left and I see them, and children grow up so fast. Right now they're babies, and tomorrow they're 18 years old. And it's our responsibility to pour into them so that the next 155 years, if the Lord say so, the church is still striving. The church needs to strive on nothing less or nothing more than the Word of God. But I see something else here. Second point, I'm almost finished. Second point I see is this. Succession plans does not require competition. Succession plan don't require competition. It don't require us to fuss with each other about God's business. Let me see if I can't make that make sense. If it's God's business and God is the one to do the choosing, why are we fussing about it? Why are we arguing about it? Let me help us out. He says, count your days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Moses, you ain't got this old being dumb. The heart of wisdom. Because when you walk with God, it didn't say a mind of wisdom. You have the heart of, you know in your heart whether something is right or wrong. You ain't got to think about, something you ain't even got to think about with your mind. You got to have a heart of wisdom. I heard people say, I just felt in my heart that there was just the right thing. That's when God is blessing our heart with a heart of wisdom. You don't need a mind to think about. You already know in your heart what's right. Moses, old as you are, ain't nobody got to tell you when you're doing right or wrong. And let me just get off the page of Moses and get down to us right now. Ain't nobody got to tell you you're doing something wrong. You know the difference between right and wrong. I'm just your pastor. I can't make you do what's right. I can only give you the advice to do what's right. But at the end of the day, your heart has to be a heart of wisdom. Pastors can't tell me what to do. I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to tell you what thus says the Lord, and based on what thus says the Lord, the word of God touches your heart, and if you have a heart of wisdom, then you do the right thing. Succession plans don't require competition. Let me see if I can make that plain. Moses is looking at how short life is. He looks at his understudy, Joshua. Joshua is there in the tribe. Moses hears from the Lord. And Moses' responsibility is not to fuss and fight with the next generation, but to prepare the next generation to proceed with the succession plan of God. Moses, don't be talking about, well, yeah, I'm just as good as that young boy. No, you're not. You have lost more than he'll ever know. You take that wisdom and knowledge that the Lord has given you, and you give it to the strong legs of Joshua, strong mind of Joshua, so that Joshua can get these people to the promised land. Because if you don't give Joshua the power, wisdom, and strength to know what to do, these people die out here in the wilderness. Beloved, I want to ask you something. What becomes important to him is getting the people to the promised land and not competing against this upcoming generation. I can still remember, y'all, when the church were mad because they had drums in the church. I didn't want to hear all that noise. It was the drums that drew the young people in the church. And then there were old people in the church that said, I don't want to hear that noise, when it was the noise that brought them, just like it was the noise that brought you. Talk back to me if you can. I remember way back then. They don't need all that screen and stuff. I hear young people, old people, you don't need all that screen, all that technology. Well, let me tell you something. Even in school and everywhere else, they got technology. Why is the church the last place that has to catch up with what's going on? See how quiet it's getting right now? So there's no need for me to get mad with my daughters when things don't go right on my computer. I just say, hey, come here. I can't get this thing to work right. And my daughter Caitlin touched 2 or 3 buttons and said, there you go. And that's, wait a minute, Caitlin, wait a minute. Show me what you did. See, I got you where I need you right now. See, just because you're passing the torch don't mean you can't learn what's going on right now. That's what you got to be able to understand, that don't you feel bad or sad because this new technology and can't nobody do it with these children. I can't do it all, but what makes me a good pastor, what makes me a better pastor is I put those young folks around me that know what they're doing, and I don't have to know everything. I just got to have people around me that know everything. So we can't fuss and argue with them because they know what to do. Even in my mama's generation, my mama used to call and say, hey, come up here and fix this VCR. Make this thing work. And I get up out of my house, go all the way to my mama's house just to make a VCR work. I'm sorry, a VCR was something we used to have before we, yeah. So I go up there and I knew how to plug. Now with this other stuff, Marcus, come see what's wrong with this TV. And then he'll look at the TV and say, Pops, you got to call that number because something has happened with our cable. And so they got to come in and do something with it. All I know is it don't work. But all you got to know is when it don't work, we have a connection with the generation that knows how to make it work. But before they can teach us how to make it work, they have to be in the house of God to be able to be present so that we can use their knowledge and understanding. We cannot become competitive with each other. That's not the heart of God. Moses' challenges in his generation was not Joshua's challenges. Can I be honest with you? That generation with Moses, they gave him hell. I ain't gonna lie to you. But Joshua's generation got so close to the promised land that they could see it. Moses' generation didn't understand how to walk by faith. They were a generation that loved to walk by complaining. But this other generation, they walk by faith. They can see it before it happened. And I got to admit, sometimes I can't see it, but they can see it before it happened. And that's the gift that God gives a generation. And so now, even when I'm teaching other preachers, my time is being consumed, and the Lord dealt with me because I was talking to a preacher the other day, teaching him about something and he kept on frustrating me about his learning style, how he was learning, and the Lord just kept telling me, you just keep teaching him, he'll learn it. And then I was teaching him and I couldn't get it. I was so frustrated, I started to just give up, but the Lord said, they didn't give up on you. An old gray-headed preacher by the name of Dr. L.C. McMillan down in Troy, who would call this young preacher and help him out. And now I understand that. So now I've gotten a little older. Now, believe it or not, I'm helping little young preachers myself. And I will continue to do that because somebody has to be able to tell them about Jesus. And there has to be a succession plan. You don't get good young preachers until you got good old preachers helping them along the way. Beloved, I want to tell you, can I be honest with you? Sometimes the problem is insecurity. That's what some of our problem is. We're insecure. That's really one of the real problems of the church. We don't think the church can go on without us. So there's an insecurity there. And it's okay on your job. It's really not okay there for you to say, I ain't teaching them nothing, because they might take my job. But when you're in the house of the Lord, you don't have a job unless the Lord give it to you. Can I be honest with you? If the Lord gave it to you, can't nobody take what the Lord has given to you, because what is for you is for you. So you don't have to fight and compete with nobody. Insecurity. Let me ask a question. Do you need that title, or do that title need you? Because the problem is not being big. The problem is, can you be small enough for God to use you? Because small-minded people make ministry into a competition. But people that are large enough to understand what God is doing, small enough in their reflection of who God is to be able to do it, we don't compete against each other for God's attention. We work together to please God. So watch this. Okay. The problem is that we have to learn that this is not about competition. Our succession plan for us today is to work with another generation of children, of people that's coming up, and we don't tell them that and try to criticize them in what God is doing with them, just like they didn't criticize us when God was moving with us. I remember the day when the church used to bring young girls up to the front of the church. It ain't been too long, and make them apologize for being pregnant. Y'all don't want to talk back to me, do you? You didn't hear what I said. They brought the young lady. Young man sat at the back and act like he don't know what's going on. They bring the young. She had to apologize, not they had to. And the church used to do that. And what that did was force young children, young people that made a mistake away. And the other children that has parents in the church that had an abortion, you never knew about it. And we made them feel like they did something right. And the children that did I wished I had somebody. We made them feel like they was doing something wrong. There was a competition. But another thing about competition, I said, which way we can't compete about, is that there's this great competition about being liked in the body of Christ. We want to be liked. And so we don't want to, I'm almost finished, we don't want to let humanity be mad rather than God. We'll rather God be mad at us than folk. But when you are working in the body of Christ, There comes a time when the Lord tells you you have to lift up a standard against Rome and speak truth to power, and you got to not care who don't like it because it didn't come from you, it came from the Lord. You got to speak truth to power. I'm almost finished. And the competition is you want to be liked so much because of the world, the social world that's in orbit, that you put your picture, you put your idea, you put everything online, and you sit back and watch for folks that's going to like it. And when somebody don't like it, you feel like when somebody put a thumbs down or somebody put I don't like it, now you upset, mad, mean, and miserable because somebody didn't like you or somebody didn't like what you did. But when you are a child of God, you've got to know within yourself that you are somebody, regardless of who likes or dislike it. You've got to trust God and know, for God I'll live and for God I'll die. I'm not looking for the approval of people. I'm looking for the approval of God. And what God likes, I like. And what God don't like, I don't like. It's all about God. But I got to hurry here. There's something else. Not only is there a succession plan does not require competition. But I'm out of here. Now, the third thing, write this down. Never have a backup plan. Have a succession plan. When you're in the church, don't have a backup plan. Have a succession plan. I think I need to tell you something, that God is a forward-thinking God. Back-up plan is not the plan you want. Succession plan is the plan that God uses. I don't want to run the litany, but I'm on my way out of here, so let me just run a little bit of it. You've got to understand that God's wisdom never promotes or produces a back-up plan. That's the world's order. Why do you got this fuse box? Why do you got, just in case something goes wrong, but with God, nothing goes the way we think it goes. So we don't use a backup plan. In other words, watch this. A backup plan is an afterthought of something you fail back on, just that you fall back on simply because something doesn't work out the way you think it should work out. If something completely falls apart, that's your backup plan. You hear people telling students, well, just in case you don't become the world's greatest basketball player, have a backup plan. Well, if you're in Christ Jesus, you can't have a backup plan. You have to have a succession plan. Succession plan, I'm closing my Bible, is when God strategically places God-chosen, spirit-filled, godly, wise people in place to transition into another generation for the promotion of God's kingdom. Come here, Joshua. You thought you were running with Moses all those days just for Moses to live forever? No, Moses is counting up his days. He's getting ready for his exodus. God tells Moses, you need to be sure that Joshua know how to be a great leader. And Moses' responsibility is now to teach this understudy, this apprentice that's up under him, to teach him the way. Moses does not compete. He does not complain. He just continues to teach Joshua. Beloved, I just stopped by to tell you that a backup plan was hoping that humanity wouldn't continue in sin. God's succession plan was simply that he sent the sacrificial Lamb of God because he knew that a backup plan wouldn't work, but a succession plan was all the people needed. I'm finished. I'm on my way out of here. I want to hoop and holler, but the Lord won't let me. Backup plan was a woman by the name of Eve. She was the backup plan, but God knew Eve was going to mess up, so God's succession plan was a woman named Mary. God always has a succession plan. God understood something, that the backup plan was the first Adam. God knew the backup plan would never work, so God's succession plan was the man we call the second Adam. His name was Jesus. Jesus was the succession plan to the world, because when we wasn't fit to live and wasn't ready to die, God had already planned a succession for Jesus to come down to this world and die for us. It wasn't a backup plan. It was all in God's plan. There was a succession plan. Can I tell you what the backup plan was? There was a backup plan called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That tree was in the garden, and that was the backup plan. But God knew that that backup plan wasn't going to work. So God's succession plan was an old rugged cross out on Calvary. Lord have mercy. I feel like hollering now. I done told myself. I feel good now that God didn't have a backup plan. God had a succession plan. When this world and you and I wasn't fit to live and wasn't ready to die, that was the backup plan. The succession plan is we didn't die, Jesus died. He was sent through 42 generations, coming down from generation to generation to generation through 42 generations, because he is the succession that was already en route to come. Even when the world was continuing to twirl, God had already sent a succession plan. Jesus died on that old rugged cross. He didn't die, he continued to die. Because when he died, the sun refused to shine, because that was a backup plan. But the succession plan was God had another son that was going to go higher than the earthly son, to sit higher at the right hand of the Father. His succession plan was, even when the earthly son don't shine, my heavenly son is going to shine. He always has a succession plan. He died. To the saints of old staged the protest march down the streets of Jerusalem. But the succession plan was not that they have a protest march down the streets of Jerusalem, but on that day the succession plan is when we all get to heaven, there's going to be another, not protest march, there's going to be another celebration in heaven when we all get together. What a time. What a time. A succession plan is what a time we'll have with God. But not only that, he died as a backup plan. But the succession plan was, there was a centurion soldier that said, surely, this man was the Son of God. His succession was to cause those that didn't even believe in him, when they saw him, they had to identify that he is the Lord. But he died. And he stayed in the grave for 3 long days. Bright early, the succession plan was bright early one Sunday morning. Backup plan was death was supposed to keep him. But the succession plan was bright early one Sunday morning. He got up with all power. Backup plan was death was supposed to keep it, but the succession plan was death didn't have no sting. Because God himself had a succession plan to get up out of the grave with all power in his hand. Power to make us live right. Power to make us give right. Power to make us love one another when we don't have the power to do it. It was a succession plan to bring us to where we are right now. Beloved, I'm finished, but I got to remind you again. What is the church succession plan? Well, we're just like Jesus with those disciples, 12 of them, apprentices, apostles. When Jesus left, they kept on spreading the gospel, spreading the gospel, spreading the gospel. Do you know that some people will come to church if granddaddy asks them to, if grandmama asks them to? if grandmama and granddaddy and mama and daddy and auntie and uncle, if you would just tell them, like someone told me, it's getting late in the evening. Sun is going down. Somebody got to tell them, like granddaddy told me, boy, you better get yourself together and come to Jesus. Well, granddaddy, I would, but I ain't doing like I'm supposed to. I'm still drinking and still trying to do all. Granddaddy said, it ain't about what you bring to him. It's about what he gonna bring to you. Come to Jesus, just as you are. In other words, granddaddy used to say this word to us all the time. You just be the fish. You just get in the Lord's net. And when you get in his net, no one else have to clean you. The Lord will do the cleaning himself. I'm finished. My time is up.